Have you ever looked back at those old family photos and realized something no one else seems to notice? In every single one, you're the one smiling the hardest, the one with your arm around a sibling who's crying, the one standing slightly in front of everyone else like a human shield made of dimples and good grades. You weren't the happiest. You were the contingency plan. You learned before you could tie your own shoes that a smile from you could buy the household another 10 minutes of peace, that a perfect report card could lower the volume of the fighting by half a decibel, that if you woke up first and started the coffee, folded the laundry, packed the lunches and asked mom how she slept, even though you already knew the answer, the day might not explode before noon. You were 7, 8, maybe 9. And you became the invisible glue, the emergency off switch, the living shock absorber for feelings too big for the adults to carry. This is the story of the child who made everything okay, and the long, invisible aftermath that follows that child into every room they will ever enter for the rest of their life. Attachment theory, the cornerstone of modern developmental psychology, gives us 4 primary styles: secure, anxious, ambivalent, avoidant, and disorganized. John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth spent decades mapping how infants form internal working models of love and safety based on caregiver consistency. But there is a 5th pathway, one that never got its own tidy label in the original studies, because it is less an attachment style than an attachment sacrifice. Clinicians today call it parentification, specifically emotional parentification, and sometimes instrumental parentification, when chores and finances get added to the emotional load. Translation: the child becomes the emotional regulator of the household. While peers are learning that caregivers soothe them, you are learning that you soothe the caregivers, that the family nervous system only settles when your nervous system absorbs everyone else's dysregulation. You develop what researchers term hyper-attunement, an almost supernatural sensitivity to micro-changes in tone, posture, pupil dilation, breathing rate. You can feel a mood shift the way animals feel earthquakes hours before they hit. You become fluent in the unspoken dialect of adult despair. The 2-second silence on the phone that means another overdraft fee. The way dad rubs his left temple only when he's calculating how many days until the next paycheck. The specific pitch of mom's laugh that isn't joy, but a warning siren. And you respond instantly, instinctively, because if you don't, no one will, and the whole fragile ecosystem you live in will collapse. That is where the original wound is carved. Psychologists speak of role confusion trauma, the slow-motion violence of being required to perform adult emotional labor with a child's underdeveloped prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for impulse control, emotional regulation, long-term planning, and the ability to hold conflicting truths, doesn't finish myelination until roughly age 25. Yet yours was running executive-level crisis management before you needed a training bra. Every time you swallowed your own panic to rock a parent through theirs, every time you translated between warring adults like a tiny United Nations interpreter, every time you absorbed blame that belonged to people 3 times your size, you were engaging in emotional labor that would hospitalize most grown men. Your stress response system went into permanent overdrive. Cortisol levels that should have been reserved for genuine life-threatening emergencies became your baseline. Your vagus nerve learned to brace instead of relax. Your mirror neurons fired so constantly on behalf of others that your own feelings got crowded out, like a radio station you can't quite tune to anymore. No one saw it, of course. That was the point. You made sure no one had to. You became what Donald Winnicott called the false self, a survival masterpiece so convincing that even you started to believe it was the real you. The false self is always accommodating, always perceptive, always 3 moves ahead of everyone else's needs. It says, "I'm fine," in a voice so steady it could anchor ships. Beneath it, the true self, the one that was terrified, exhausted, furious, needy, went into cryogenic deep freeze. Need became the ultimate danger. Need made Mom cry harder. Need made Dad leave the room. Need threatened the entire fragile structure you alone were holding together with invisible string and sheer force of will. So you amputated need. You became a walking act of emotional philanthropy, giving and giving until the ledger was so lopsided it would take lifetimes to balance. But the false self does not clock out when you blow out 18 candles. It follows you to college, where you become the dorm therapist. It follows you to your first job, where you volunteer for every overtime shift because someone might need the money more. It follows you into every romantic relationship, where you fall in love with potential, with chaos, with the familiar electricity of walking into a room and immediately scanning for who is about to fall apart. You date emotional toddlers because their dysregulation feels like home. Their need for you feels like oxygen. You confuse being needed with being loved because, for you, they have always been the same thing. You stay in relationships that expired years ago because leaving would make you the villain, and you would rather set yourself on fire than be the reason someone else feels the way you felt at 8 years old. Alone, terrified, responsible for feelings too big to name. You say, "I'm fine," when you're hemorrhaging inside because honesty feels like emotional terrorism. You apologize when someone violates your boundaries because clearly you drew the boundary wrong. You have a doctorate in everyone else's inner world and a preschool understanding of your own. You feel guilty for wanting rest the way other people feel guilty for theft. You experience what clinicians now term pathological accommodation, the reflexive shaping of your entire personality around the comfort of others. You develop depleted empathy syndrome, a state where your once limitless capacity to hold space for pain has been so overdrawn that your own nervous system feels like a foreign language. Your body keeps the score in fibromyalgia flares, in autoimmune disorders that flare precisely when you try to say no, in tension headaches that feel like a metal band tightening around your skull, in a startle response so hair-trigger that a slammed door can send you into full fight or flight. You burn out in slow motion, then apologize for the inconvenience of your collapse, because even your breakdown has to be low maintenance. And then one day you sit in a therapist's office, or on a meditation cushion, or in the parked car outside your childhood home, and something ruptures. The therapist says, "compulsive caregiving," or "anxious preoccupied with parentified features," and it feels like someone finally read the fine print on your soul. You realize the lifelong effect in one brutal, clarifying instant. The child who made everything okay became the adult who cannot make anything okay for themselves. The coping mechanism that saved your family destroyed your right to be a child, and no one ever gave you permission to stop. But here is where the story is allowed to turn. Healing is not about becoming less caring. It is about widening the circle of who deserves care until you are finally, undeniably, inside it. The first sentence you must learn, perhaps the hardest sentence in the English language for you, is, "This is not my job." Not your partner's untreated depression, not your best friend's refusal to go to therapy, not your mother's regret that she married the wrong man, not your father's inability to say he's proud of you. Those are their jobs now. Your only job is to become the parent you never had. This is called reparenting, and it is brutal, sacred, holy work. It looks like sitting on the floor of your adult apartment and letting yourself cry the way you never could at 10. Ugly, snotty, loud, with no one to hand you a tissue or tell you to be quiet because dad's sleeping. It looks like feeling rage that has been stored in your body for 30 years and letting it shake you without apologizing for the noise. It looks like buying the stuffed animal you wanted at 8 and sleeping with it unironically. It looks like saying, "I'm not available right now," and not offering a PowerPoint presentation to justify it. It looks like learning that boundaries are not selfishness. They are the architecture of self-respect. Grief is the main ingredient. You have to grieve the childhood you didn't get to have, the tantrums you never threw because someone might leave, the nights you fell asleep to screaming through thin walls, the way you promised yourself that when you grew up, no one would ever have to feel this alone again, and then spent decades making sure no one did, except you. You have to feel it all, the terror, the loneliness, the murderous rage at the adults who should have protected you, because the only way out is through. You have to let the little one inside you finally have the meltdown she was never allowed. You have to hold her while she screams, while she kicks, while she says, "It wasn't fair," 1,000 times. You have to become the safe house you never had, and something miraculous begins to happen. Trauma researchers speak of post-traumatic growth, and for the parentified child, it often looks like the fiercest, most boundaried compassion on earth. You do not become cold, you become clear. You become the person who can hold space for enormous pain without becoming the pain. You learn the difference between empathy and enmeshment. You learn that love is not rescue. Love is presence plus boundaries. You learn to say, "I can sit with you in this darkness, but I will not move into it with you." You model something revolutionary, a human being who has needs and still shows up for others, not because they have no needs, but because they finally honor their own first. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, the false self begins to crack along its perfect seams. Light gets in. The true self thaws. She is messy. She is loud sometimes. She takes up more space than you ever thought you were allowed. She has needs the size of continents and opinions that scare you. And for the first time in your life, you do not punish her for any of it. You say to her what no one ever said to you. "I'm here. You don't have to fix anything. You are safe now. You deserve to take up oxygen just by existing." If you recognize yourself in every word of this, please hear me. The fact that you are still trying, still caring, still showing up after carrying an entire family's worth of pain before you were old enough to spell your last name, that is not damage. That is the most extraordinary strength I have ever witnessed in a human soul. You were the child who made everything okay. Now be the adult who finally lets themselves not be okay for a little while until okay grows from the inside out, wild and untamed and yours alone. You don't have to hold the world anymore. The world was never yours to hold. You deserved to be the child. You deserved to be carried. You deserved someone bigger who said, "I've got this, little one. You can rest." And the most revolutionary act of love you can offer that child now is to become that someone. Put the weight down. Just for today, put it down. You are not the thermostat anymore. You are the house. And the house finally gets to be warm, not because it is keeping everyone else comfortable, but because someone at long last remembered to turn the heat on for the person who lives there.